welcome back to Unicom Productions. As always, I'm your cruise director, Kristen, and this is the Mountain Mall in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Which is not dead at all, but is extremely retro and allowed me to get to be 10 years old again for a little while I was filming this, so come along. Now, the first thing I want to highlight is this is the first of two fountains in this mall, one at each end. The base of each fountain is made for a 135-year-old millstone and is intended to evoke the feeling of an old grist mill, of which there are many sprinkled in the woods surrounding Gatlinburg. I really lucked out on this trip with fountains. You'll get to see even more very soon. I love tourist traps. I love corny, commercialized, kitschy places like this, and really when it comes down to it, this is one of the most charming tourist traps around, and by that I mean Gatlinburg as a whole. If you were to distill Gatlinburg down to an essence, you'll find most of those things here. Custom t-shirts, western wear, sports memorabilia of questionable origin, and more candy than you can imagine. Stores filled with the sort of things your aunt will proudly show off for the next 12 months after coming home from her big trip to Gatlinburg. Said item will probably have a black bear wearing a straw hat holding a jug of moonshine. This was always one of my favorite places to visit when we came here, which we did at least once a year the entire time I was growing up. Gatlinburg was originally called White Oak Flats, the centerpiece of which was a general store operated by the Ogle family for many years, a store that sat on this very spot all the way back to the 19th century. Over time, a few developments brought attention to the town, namely the founding of the Arrowmont School of Arts and Crafts in the early 20th century and the dedication of Great Smoky Mountain National Park in 1934. Prior to the arrival of the school, the town consisted of 6 houses and a few services like a blacksmith shop and a general store like I mentioned earlier. In 1934, when Great Smoky Mountain National Park opened, 40,000 visitors streamed through the town, and the following year that figure increased to 500,000. So in the same way many other gateway towns around national parks have become resort towns, Gatlinburg followed that trend, and in fact, Great Smoky Mountain National Park is the most visited national park in the country. This mall comes with quite the pedigree. It was built by the great-grandson of the Ogle family, and at the time it opened in 1978, featured several stores also owned and operated by members of the Ogle family. There was a great deal of fanfare surrounding the mall's opening because it was the first enclosed mall in the resort area and that it featured the first escalators in Sevier County, which, these are the cutest baby escalators. Weirdly, all the escalators go up. Once you get up to the top floor, you can only go down using the stairs or the elevator. The mall has 6 mini floors, which in practice is really 3 levels. The Mountain Mall features about 40 retail spaces, and if I had to estimate, we're at about 350,000 square feet here. It does not have any traditional department store anchors. Really, the closest thing to an anchor are the 2 large spaces on the small offset floors, which house a western wear store and a sports place. This mall was never intended to be a traditional suburban mall. It was always meant to feature local artisans and shops in a weather-friendly setting. The town features several other shopping areas calling themselves malls, but they are all nearly entirely open air and are really more like a courtyard, and this resembles a proper mall with escalators and inline tenants and a roof over top of it. When the mall opened, the developer Earl Ogle Sr. said that the Mountain Mall was intended to influence tourists to add another day to their trip. He said it would take an entire day to explore the Mountain Mall. Now, with apologies to Mr. Ogle, it took me about an hour to explore the Mountain Mall, but I gotta say, I was headed to Chattanooga after this for a few more malls, and the call of moonshine tastings and knickknacks almost made me want to add another day. An interesting tidbit I found out as well, this isn't entirely a traditional mall. They do usually have a mall Santa during the holiday season. Christmas is kind of a big deal here. The entire town celebrates Winterfest and decorate everything for the holidays. Of all the tenants in the mall, one of the longest running ones is a record store called Rhythm Section, which over the years I've found stuff I was never able to find anywhere else. I distinctly remember picking up a couple of rare Pixie singles on CD there, and a really good record store isn't really something you expect to see in a mall like this. Unfortunately, I didn't get any footage of it because I was so enamored by the fountain, but it is right inside the door on the lower level and has a street-facing window so you can peek inside and see that it's jam-packed with treasures. Here is part of the second fountain, which is almost entirely made of wood and is based with the same century-old millstones, and this one goes even further with the old mill aesthetic and stands 35 feet tall, running between the three levels of the mall. It's really peaceful to sit here and watch it. It's a great place to get a break from the hustle and bustle of the parkway because it's kind of tucked away on an upper level and isn't usually very crowded up here. Now, this set of bathrooms wasn't always here. This used to be an arcade when I was a kid, and I have many fond memories of being given $5 in tokens to earn 10 or so tickets with a round of skee ball to win whatever token prize could be had for that number of tickets. And I always got these little fruit-scented Papa Point pencils. The memory is so vivid that when I got home, I found out they still make those pencils and bought a pack of them off of Amazon, and you know what? Worth every penny. They smell exactly the same. Thank you for coming along with me on this trip down memory lane. It's good to be back, and I have a very mixed menu of malls coming up for us. Everything from a liminal, nearly empty office park to a 90s-style palace mall full of pink tile. So come along, would you? Subscribe so you'll get to see all of that and more. As always, I'm your cruise director, Kristen, and this is Unicom Productions. We'll see you next time.